see, the first name of the lesson, the name of the first lesson that we will be working on in this series is expressions and variables. And before we move on to our 3 examples, we're going to go over these 4 vocabulary words. Now, don't be nervous if these words are new to you or if the definitions sound a little confusing, because as we work through the examples and work in class tomorrow and over the course of the week, we will be using these so often that before you know it, you'll already understand what they are. Our first phrase is numerical expression. And a numerical expression is an expression that includes numbers and operations. And when we hear this word operations, what it means is adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing. Our second vocabulary word is variable. A variable is a letter that is used to represent a number. Now, in class and in your work, you can use really any of the 26 letters of the alphabet with the exceptions of the letter O, because it can be mistaken for a 0. We also don't use lowercase I and lowercase l, or really even the capitals, because those could be confused with a 1. So that leaves you, 23 letters to choose from. Our third vocabulary term is variable expression. And a variable expression is like a numerical expression, except that this expression uses numbers, variables, and operations. And then finally, the 4th word is evaluate. And to evaluate means to find the value of an expression. Look, value is the root of evaluate. And a synonym for evaluate is to solve. And as I said, we're going to work through 3 examples. Now, it's important that you understand before we get started that what we're doing here and what you'll be doing in class and for homework is not just about learning the pre-algebra, it's also about instilling good work habits. So sometimes, or maybe oftentimes, what I ask you to do, what I require of you might seem tedious, but just keep it in the back of your mind that this is what's expected when I say show your work, and then when you have me next year for algebra, and then when you move on to high school, this is what the norm is. So let's look at our first example. Evaluate the expression when m equals 8. And we're going to work on 2 separate expressions in this example. When you have an expression that has a number and a variable, and they're telling you what the variable is, after you copy the problem into your notebook or on your loose leaf, or in this case onto your note-taking sheet, your next step is to rewrite the expression, but this time instead of using the variable, we're going to use here the number 8. So our next step is to write 13 minus 8, and then because evaluate, as I said, is a synonym for solve, 13 minus 8 is 5, and 5 is your final answer. And then we're going to do the same thing here. 40 over m, which is a fraction. And the operation here is division. Something I want you to remember, it's very important, is that any time you see a fraction, what you're seeing is a division problem. So here we have 40 divided by m. So just as we did over here on the left, we are going to rewrite this expression, but this time we're going to substitute the number 8, the value of 8, for the letter m. And then, as it turns out, our final answer is also 5, because 40 divided by 8 is 5. Now let's move on to our second example. This one is very similar. Example 2 is very similar to example 1, only here instead of working in 1 variable, we're working with 2. Here we're told that the variable a has a value of positive 12, and b is positive 3. What we're going to do is substitute our a's and our b's in the expressions, and then solve. Here, when we have an a and a b, you notice that there's no symbol, there is no operational symbol that we see. It's implied. Whenever you see 2 variables that are touching, that look connected, it means that they need to be multiplied. So we have an a times b. What we have is 12 times 3. And 12 times 3 is 36. Now there's something else I want to point out to you, ladies and gentlemen. Notice we are using a dot to indicate multiplication. Because we are using variables nearly every day, we get rid of using an x because it would just confuse the situation. So when you are writing out a multiplication expression or equation, use a dot. Now let's move on to our next example. Here we have a plus b. Our a is 12, b is 3, 12 plus 3, 15. We're almost done. Only one more example. Now sometimes in pre-algebra and even later in algebra, we'll have to do some translating. And that's what example 3 asks us to do. Write a variable expression to represent the following phrases. And when I say translate, I mean we're going to move from English and translate it into algebra. Here we have the product of a number and 5. So there are a couple of clue words that you need to look for because I think that this skill is new for you. First we have product, which means that we are going to multiply the numbers. What exactly are we going to multiply? When you see the term a number, it means a variable. So any variable that you want, I am going to choose m. And if you're multiplying a number and 5, it means 5 times that variable, which we express as 5m. No operational symbol in between. And then let's look over here. 11 fewer than a number. Well, you already know that a number means any variable. Here is where most mistakes will happen. 11 fewer. Fewer means that we are taking away. What are we taking away? 11, which means our variable, a number, and I'll use p this time, is our whole, and 11 fewer means we're taking away 11 from it. And as we work for homework tonight and in class, you will definitely do a lot more examples like these that we've done in the video, and I promise you will feel more secure and more confident and start to become proficient.